The tiny oppressed minority is at its shenanigans again. Jennifer Pritzker, which is the most oppressed billionaire, I guess has a house in Tennessee or some businesses in Tennessee. There's an article in Out. Trans billionaire threatens to leave Tennessee over transphobic bills. Jennifer Pritzker is the only known trans billionaire in the world and is set to boycott the southern state. The world's first and only known transgender billionaire threatened to pull her vast fortune from Tennessee if lawmakers pass transphobic legislation currently under consideration. It's the usual very objective recording, just automatically assuming everything is transphobic and hateful and right-wing and conservative and bigoted. Jennifer Pritzker, a decorated military veteran and philanthropist whose estimated worth hovers around $2 billion, told lawmakers they are creating a hostile environment for her family and their vast wealth with their actions. They're creating a hostile environment for the Pritzker's vast wealth. In a statement, Pritzker threatened to pull both her funds and family from the state if Tennessee joins other Republican-dominated legislatures and passes the transphobic bills in a thinly veiled attempt to appeal to their base of white conservative voters. Pritzker here, and all of the Pritzker family, as far as I know, is white as the driven snow. And conservative, depending on which way the wind is blowing. They gave money to Trump. Pritzker says, "As a transgender woman, these unnecessary and hurtful laws are personal to me." The billionaire Pritzker wrote in an open statement to lawmakers, "But as a businesswoman, my larger concern is the impact they will have on Tennessee's reputation and ultimately economic well-being." Nice economy you got there. It'd be a shame if something happened to it. As businesses and tourists turn elsewhere, no state benefits from the perception that it is an intolerant and unwelcome place for people of different backgrounds, and it alarms me gravely to see this state vying for the title of least inclusive in the nation. That makes me want to just book a vacation at, Dollywood or something. Lawmakers in the state's House recently passed HB 1233, which is part of what Human Rights Campaign called a slate of hate. Bills currently making their way through the Tennessee House and Senate. The Senate has their own version of the bill, SB 1367. Since this article or whatever it is not bothering to report what those bills are, it's basically just a bathroom bill for public schools. Like, so kids have to use a bathroom that corresponds with their birth sex, and the schools can provide single-use space for transgender kids. Melodia Gutierrez, she's the Associate Regional Campaign Director for HRC, Human Rights Campaign, said instead of focusing on addressing the serious challenges that affect the everyday lives of Tennesseans, including health care, infrastructure, and a pandemic that requires decisive action from its state leaders, the legislature is focused on targeting transgender people and advancing their slate of hate. Because NGOs like HRC and rich assholes like Jennifer Pritzker have been changing laws by fiat for the last 5 or 6 years, and they're finally starting to push back against it. Following devastating losses and a rebuke of their policies in the recent general election, desperate Republicans have pivoted to passing transphobic legislation at a state level in an attempt to fire up a far-right base. So, yeah, we're going to keep pretending that this is all just right-wing stuff. There's nobody on the left that has a problem with mixed sex changing areas and prisons and all this. The transphobic bills barring trans youth from playing sports according to their identity, barring males from playing and female sports, and that would make it illegal for doctors to provide science-based, medically appropriate care, castration drugs to kids, to their patients, have become popular with key Republican constituencies. Lawmakers in Florida recently passed a bill that would allow for genital inspections of girls, meaning you don't need a genital inspection to tell what sex people are. And by girls, they mean boys who are trying to get onto girls' sports. They're not even bothering to say trans girls anymore. Maybe, hopefully, that's because people are starting to clue in that trans just means male. By the time they're in school, the kids will have had physicals, checkups. A doctor could verify with a piece of paper what kind of junk they have in their pants, if that's even ambiguous, which, obviously it's almost never is. Pritzker is one of the famed Pritzker clan, which created the Hyatt hotel chains, as well as other industrial firms that made all the family incredibly wealthy. They're really talking up Pritzker's wealth here, like it's supposed to make him an authority that should be able to write all our laws and dictate all our policies. Before embarking on her business career, Pritzker served as in the 82nd Airborne of the United States Army and retired as a lieutenant colonel. Pritzker's philanthropic efforts include funding multiple efforts to preserve U.S. military history, honoring the citizen soldier, blah, blah, blah. She used a $1.35 million grant to the University of California, Santa Barbara to study transgender service in the military and police and fire departments, and a $2 million donation to endow an academic chair of the Transgender Studies Department at the University of Victoria in British Columbia, Canada, with Aaron DeVore as the inaugural chair. While Pritzker made clear she loves the state of Tennessee, she also drew a line in the sand with legislators over their hateful legislative actions. Really objective reporting here. If the legislature insists on embracing division and exclusion, we may have little choice but to pull our business out, harming workers and their families the most. That's your choice. That's your decision to do that. You don't have to pull your businesses out and harm workers and families. That's just you threatening, throwing a tantrum. I implore the state's political leaders to embrace unity and the economic interests of all Tennesseans. We're expected to draft all our legislation by economic coercion now, just whatever CEOs want for us to do. That's how we're going to run things. I hope the Tennessee lawmakers don't back down. I guess if you're in Tennessee, write your lawmakers, call them. The transparency of this oligarchy, this isn't going to fly anymore. I can't see people just continuing to fall for this. This isn't a tiny oppressed minority. This is rich assholes. I'm not in Tennessee, but if anybody is, you might want to write your lawmakers, make sure they don't, fall for this. I can imagine this is going to keep people won't start seeing through, just the oligarchical dictatorialness of this and the manipulation and the biased reporting on it. This can't keep flying forever. So that's what's going on.